Hello, bosses, and welcome to today's Career Crush Q&A with the marvelous money maven, Tonya Rapley. She is a thought leader when it comes to connecting millennials and finance products, a personal finance expert, and the founder of My Fab Finance, a good friend of the Bossed Up community. It is so exciting to always have Tonya on here and reconnect with all the amazing work that you're up to. Now, just a couple of housekeeping notes before we dive right in. As you know, every Wednesday at 1 o'clock Eastern, we have our Career Crush live Q&A, and this is all about bringing together women who I have a career crush on with our audience to inspire and uplift by getting pretty real about what it took to get to where you are today. And so we're going to go there. We're going to talk everything and anything about business and life and balance and figuring it all out. And we want to make sure that your questions get answered. So communicate with both of us live throughout the broadcast. And if you're watching this on our YouTube channel weeks later, that's fine too. Tony and I both love to tweet. So hit us up at MyFabFinance on Twitter or BossedUp.org for me. And use that hashtag CareerCrush to keep our conversation all in the same thread. So without further ado, Tonya, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me back. I love what you do, and I'm such a fan of Bossed Up. So thank you so much. It is such an honor, and I'm looking forward to our conversation. I feel like we always have like really good convo.
Yeah, like this is literally me just hitting the broadcast button with the crazy awesome women that I get to call my sort of colleagues in the space anyway. So I love being able to sort of peel back the layers of Pinterest perfection and talk about the nitty-gritty of what it takes to do what you do. And I think a lot of the Bossed Up community are women who are navigating career transitions of a variety of kinds, right? They're women who are trying to figure out how to pay down debt, how to increase their savings, how to make a big leap in life or in work, and maybe even start that side hustle like you did. So first, Tonya, why don't you tell us a little bit about what My Fab Finance really is and what really gave you the impetus to start it?
Yeah, absolutely. And let me just preface this with, I live in New York City and I live on a very busy street in New York. So if anyone hears honking horns, ambulances, fire trucks, or anything like that, it's because of where I live. But hopefully things will simmer down outside for us. So My Fab Finance, I started My Fab Finance in 2013. I started it because I realized that unless I plan for my future was just going to happen. And my worst fear was like bagging groceries at age 70, and not living in the manner that I wanted to live in when it was time for me to retire. And so My Fab Finance started, I just felt like there weren't people who looked like me talking about finance, and especially from a real perspective. There are financial educators out there, but I felt like so many people were removed from actually being in the trenches and doing the work. So I started My Fab Finance to document my experience, what I was learning, my journey to financial freedom. And it caught on fairly quickly, and people in my own network started sharing it. And I just realized that there was a need for people who looked like me to talk about money in the manner that I was talking about it. And so I think maybe 6 months after setting My Fab Finance up, it was really ugly. I made my first banner. It was a really, really ugly website. I decided to take it serious, and I hired someone to design my first logo. And that was actually during a trip to Paris. And I was like, I love traveling. How can I create a lifestyle where I can travel and see the world and love what I do? And I think I could do that with My Fab Finance. Like, there are people who need this. I've always wanted to change the world. I think I can do this by helping people with their money. And that was 2013. And fast forward to 2015, I resigned from my 9-to-5 to do My Fab Finance full time. I've been going strong since then. I have a staff of 3 now, and it's growing. It's fantastic. I'm learning. I'm imperfect, but the most important thing is that I'm essentially changing lives and making a living doing it, and doing it in a way that feels good. So
I think
it's been
that
a
in
blessing.
itself is what a lot of our ladies are looking for. And I think it's great how candid you are, and I'm the same way, about the time between starting something new and quitting your day job, right? You have a program about preparing to be your own boss. Tell us what that process looked like for you, and how you do suggest preparing to be your own boss and how folks can learn more about all of those suggestions too.
Well, I do want to preface this by saying this is not my first ride at the rodeo when it comes to blogging. So I originally moved to New York City as a music blogger. I had a music blog called The Eargasm, and it had a fairly decent readership, but it was not set up to win. Like I was just like, I'm going to get ad dollars. That's how I'm going to live. And so I learned a lot of lessons from that unsuccessful try at blogging. And so when I set up My Fab Finance, I was like, I'm going into this different. Once I realized that I wanted to be something real and something that was going to be a long-term part of my life and my story, I started learning everything I could about making money in the blogging industry, and started building alliances with individuals who were more familiar with the finance industry. And so My Fab Finance, a lot of people don't realize, but I mean, I was maybe 10%, less than 10% of my total revenue comes from actually the blog. The blog is not my business. The blog is a platform for me to obtain more business. And I had to learn that as I prepared to leave my 9-to-5, and I decided that I was going to leave my 9-to-5 because I had to set up multiple revenue streams. So with My Fab Finance, before I left, and I just Snapchatted about this yesterday, I'll give my Snapchat details at the end. But before I Snapchatted about this yesterday, before I left my job, I had at least 5 revenue streams set up. And I don't recommend that anyone leave their job just with one revenue stream. So yeah, you have a body butter company, and that's great. You probably have the best body butters on the planet, but you shouldn't leave your job just based on the sales of those body butters, because, you know, things change. Customers are finicky. And what happens if your biggest client, say you do land Target, but what happens if Target comes back next year and says, we're not renewing your contract? Then you're stuck like Chuck and you don't have your 9-to-5 anymore. So it's really important to develop multiple ways to make money with your expertise before you leave your 9-to-5. And also just viewing your 9-to-5 differently. So during this process, and I teach people to do this in the course of financially preparing to be your own boss, your 9-to-5 is your original investor in your business. So while you are making this money at your 9-to-5, be adding it to your savings account, or B, putting all the money that you're earning from your business into a savings account. Anything that you're not investing into your business needs to go into savings so you can build your flight fund. And flight fund amounts differ based on, you know, your responsibilities and based on how far along you are in the business. But I comfortably put aside 3 months of my overhead when I left my 9-to-5. And I have not had to touch that money because I set up strong revenue streams when I left to do My Fab Finance full time. So your flight fund depends on how much money or how successful your business is before you leave, as well as the potential for you to make money down the line, and how much debt and, you know, your responsibilities. Like, I don't have any children. That changes everything.
I love the practicality of that, because there's so much in this space about, like, take the leap, believe in your passion, make your passion your paycheck. There's so much advice that says, like, your mindset needs to be right, and very often I think there is a false sense of encouragement, and I know it comes from a good place, right? We want to be brave, we want to be courageous, right? And sometimes it's like, pay me $3,000 and I'll, you know, and then
exactly,
I'll give you the courage to take the leap.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's so funny, because I have to say, I didn't know a lot about finance when I made the leap myself, but I definitely learned quickly about using, like I said, like you said, using that paycheck, that 9-to-5, as a huge opportunity to save like you've never saved before, and make your savings your power, make your savings your business launch pad. And then, you know, I think what I would have done better, had I really thought this through, was like have more of a viable, steady revenue stream or multiple revenue streams before making that leap. Because sometimes for Bossed Up, it was really fits and starts, stops and starts, you know, figuring it back out. And I'm impatient, right? So what do we say to the impatient go-getters who have all the drive and all the energy in the world but might not have that balance sheet figured out just yet? Like, how do you advise those folks who definitely have talent and gifts to give but haven't quite optimized their systems yet?
You have to optimize your systems, and that's one of the things I'm learning with My Fab Finance. I kind of built without systems initially, and So now most of my day is about researching systems and setting up systems and working with my team to put systems into place, because that is the only way your business is going to grow. If you don't have effective system put into place,
Yeah.
then you are going to reach a wall or a point where you cannot grow any further, because either quality starts to suffer or you begin to burn out, because
Yeah.
you're doing the same thing over and over and over different ways, and you don't have one way to get it done, and you don't have an easier way to get it done. So setting those systems up, I mean, if you're impatient and you're just like, this job is killing me, I have to go, like, make sure you have your money set up properly and you have those systems in place, because if you do take that leap before you're ready, you might end up hating your business, or you end up doing things out of desperation, and good decisions do not come from a place of desperation.
Totally. So let's talk about that too, because we just got a question that sort of brings us back to the fundamentals, and not everybody at Bossed Up is interested in startups. So for the money 101 talk, how do we deal with savings, or how do we make savings a priority if we're in debt, or if, as Precious here asks, your expenses equal just about the amount of income you've got coming in? So where do we get started in sort of getting ourselves tipping the scale in the other direction?
Precious, I mean, that's a common question that people ask. And if your expenses equal your income, then either you're not making enough money, or you're spending too much, or a combination of the two. And I could say it till I'm blue in the face, like trim, 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 trim. Find ways to trim your budget. Find ways to trim your budget so that you can save. But some people are so leaned out to the point where they are like, if I trim anything, I'm going to cut myself. And so I totally understand that. But then you have to find a way to bring in money outside. That doesn't mean necessarily starting a full-fledged Etsy store or whatever it may be, but that might be finding ways that, or finding things you're talented at your 9 to 5, and finding additional ways to make money, or provide those services for others outside your 9 to 5, so you can start to generate additional income. For example, my assistant, she works full time, but she's extremely, extremely organized, communicates very well, and she makes additional money each month that she applies to paying down her family debt from me by providing me with virtual assistant services. That's one way. I'm bringing on, I have an editor, my SEO person. She didn't even know SEO when we got started, but she was like, I'm willing to learn. So now I pay her monthly to provide me SEO services that probably take her maybe about 2 hours total a week, but she's bringing in additional income in that manner. So if you find that your expenses and your income are deadlocked, then something has to give or something has to get.
Yeah.
As far as prioritizing savings, before I forget, savings is always a priority. It should not be an afterthought. And when you're dealing with savings and debt, if you are, even if a collection company is calling you, if you don't have any savings, then you need to pay the minimum on your debt and maximize your savings plan, period. Because if you lose your job or anything else was to happen, you're already cash strapped. And if you were to lose your job, like, those expenses don't disappear, but your income has. And so your savings is going to be critical to maintaining your lifestyle, or at least covering your overhead until you find a position to replace it.
That's a great piece of advice. And I also just want to underscore here how tough it is out there right now. I think it was in the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times a couple of months ago that a new article came out that was really well written about this statistic that the government started asking in an annual survey about, if you were hit with a $400 unanticipated expense, could you cover it? And for the first time, or maybe despite the fact that incomes have recovered somewhat since the Great Recession,
Yeah.
like, vast majority of the middle class of the United States, not what is deemed the working poor, but people who are supposedly making a decent income, the vast majority of them said, no, I don't know where that $400 would come from if I had an emergency come up. And so it's such a common problem, Precious, that two things I would just add to that. One is, let's get you bossed up and out of there, right? Like, let's figure out how to transition to a place that pays you better.
Yeah.
That is one option always. Your job hunt is the same as your investment in your own business, right? So whether you're investing in figuring out a side hustle or figuring out a better 9 to 5, we can help with that. And two, negotiate, negotiate, negotiate. It's not easy. It's not socially rewarded all the time, especially for women. who can be seen as bossy for being assertive, but we have to be our best advocates for ourselves. So when we do get the job offer, we have to be in a position to negotiate, and I've got a ton of resources on that too. Just watch the rest of the stuff on our YouTube channel, including our Equal Pay Day Boss Better Have My Money negotiation. Yes, it was Rihanna inspired, and it's on our YouTube channel, and you can watch the whole 2-hour step-by-step workshop that I did for free, because shit's hard, first of all, and injustice is rampant, right? We're not operating in a perfect system. This system of ours is full of injustice as much as it is full of opportunity. So to combat that, while we're waiting for Congress to create some system change around this stuff, we got to be our own best advocates, and that's what we're all about here at Bossed Up. So I just want to sort of underscore how hard it is out there for not just those who are struggling, but really for the middle class still. And I could get on my soapbox and preach all day about that, but
no, I definitely agree. It is definitely tough out there. And you're asking a woman who graduated in 2007 at the height of the recession, which is why I ended up creating my own, because I just stopped trusting companies after a while. I was like, you know what? You guys aren't loyal. I could show up to work, today and be employed, and then 2 days later I'm unemployed. And so it definitely is tough out there. And I do want to highlight that it is important to just take a look at your current spending habits, because I agree, like, you should earn what you are worth. At the end of the day, if you don't set your own value, people will determine it for you. But also, in the same sense, there is a saying out there that until you learn how to properly manage your money, you will never have enough. True. So there are some people who are always chasing more money, and they're still broke because they haven't learned how to properly manage money. So I encourage people to assess whether it's an income issue or a money issue. And we have an article that walks people through that on our Start Here page of the website. It is probably one of our most popular articles, but it's at myfabfinance.com/start here. You can click it on the Twitter bio. But do you have an income issue or a money management issue? Like, let's get down to what's going on.
I love it. Precious says, thanks for the advice. I'm going to go over my budget and trim some expenses. # ready to boss up.
Boss it.
I love it. Awesome. So tell us more about why money, right? So you're a music blogger. I love the name of your former blog. And why finance, right? So obviously the backdrop of this time was the recovery from the Great Recession, not trusting companies. I totally get that. But why money? And you mentioned a little bit about how there weren't financial experts out there and thought leadership that look like you.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that.
I mean, money is it's a tool. Money is a tool. And my undergraduate degree was in public administration. Our master's is in public policy. So I've always been like, I'm going to change the world. And I just realized that I could do it by helping people establish better money habits and becoming financially free, because financially free people are happier. I think they're more peaceful. I think a happier people contributes to a better global environment, as well as just the energy of the planet, or just the energy of my community here in Brooklyn. If I can help people with their finances here, I think it changes things. But I struggled with math growing up, and I know I'm not alone, because historically women, we go into STEM positions at significantly lower rates than our male counterparts. But I was using that as a reason for me not to be good with money. And I wanted to show people that you can have struggled with math growing up, but that doesn't mean you have to be bad with money, and you can still be successful, financially successful, despite that.
I love it. Awesome. So what other tools out there have you found people take the most advantage of? In My Fab Finance, I know you've got a lot of resources in the blog. Tell us more about some of the popular solutions or common pitfalls that you see folks in our generation really struggling over.
I see we paralyze ourselves because we think that it's harder than it is. So I see people come to me and they're like, oh my God, I don't know where to start. And so that's why I created this Start Here page, and I offer a lot of freebies. I think one of the most important and one of the most popular documents on My Fab Finance is our goal sheet. Every single year we do a goal sheet, and that goal sheet helps put your values into perspective, because it's very difficult to create financial goals if you have no idea what you value, what's important to you, and what you want to achieve in the future. So that document is popular. And then our Ultimate Student Loan Guide. I don't think you can talk to millennials about money without discussing student loans. So my editor and I created, it's about a 9-page document that addresses like all the student loan questions that we collected from our audience. And it's totally free. It's at myfabfinance.com. And it's the ultimate student loan guide. That is very popular because people they're unaware of how student loans can positively impact their credit. So we have some people who are like, I don't have any credit, but student loans can help you build credit if you pay them responsibly. And then people assume that that letter that they get, the initial letter, is the payment that is set in stone. They don't realize that they can communicate with their student loan providers and negotiate a payment that is more in line with their current budget or their current capabilities. So those are a few of the mistakes that I see people making. Not getting started or feeling like they're just too overwhelmed, and also not understanding their rights when it pertains to their student loans.
I love that. And I think the overwhelmed piece is so indicative of why Bossed Up exists, right? Burnout is, I think, kind of commonly tossed around in this overwhelmed culture that we exist in, especially with the traditional barriers of the 9 to 5 not even being 9 and 5 anymore.
No.
So when we've got our smartphones and we're social and we're on all the time, it can feel like, oh my God, I should be doing everything all the time.
Yeah.
And anxiety, I think, disproportionately affects women who are more likely to have, roles, like play roles in relationship to our friends, our loved ones, our family members. And when we get married, our identities change in that way. So congratulations on your recent marriage.
Thank you.
But it does sort of speak to, how do we prioritize figuring out what we want? That's what Bossed Up Bootcamp is all about, really. That's why we created this weekend program. And I have to say, we're bringing it to New York City next month. So we're coming to your neck of the woods. So excited. But it's really about sort of looking at your calendar like we look at your budget, right? How much time am I actually spending on my personal finances? How much time am I actually spending on my side hustle? And how does my time and what I'm doing every day align with my values, just like how much my budget aligns with my values? So that helps me so strongly. Very cool. Well, I just want to pause here to remind everybody that you can send in your specific questions using that hashtag CareerCrush on Twitter, or you can tweet at BossedUpORG or MyFabFinance on Twitter as well. We'll be taking a couple more questions. But tell me about your amazing wedding. I know that you posted a post all about it because I saw the beautiful photos. You did a destination wedding and you didn't break the bank, of course. But I have to ask, how do you feel in this new stage of life that you're in as an entrepreneur, as a married woman now, and as a financial expert? Sort of, what does that look like to you in this time of your life, and what have you learned?
I feel incredibly blessed to have all these just amazing things happening at once. Leading up to my wedding, we got married in February. I resigned from my job in September. I was like, who the hell do I think I am? Resigning from a job and planning a wedding within 6 months. I was going crazy. I did not enjoy the wedding planning process. And I think part of that was because for us, we were trying to stay in budget. So everything had to be okayed with our budget and we had to figure things out. And there are a lot of calculations. And then there's people management. We did a destination wedding. So we were responsible for 56 people traveling to Jamaica. But once we got there, it was absolutely amazing. I'm so happy I did a destination wedding. We were originally going to have a stateside wedding, and then everybody and their mother literally started inviting themselves to my wedding. So I was like, you know what? What we're going to do is go overseas. And if you really want to come, you can come. And that cut our budget significantly. But we're so happy. A lot of our friends had such a good time. And it's really important when planning a wedding in general, or not even just a wedding, when you're an entrepreneur, your career, whatever it may be, you know what is best for you and what feels like it's best for you. Innately, we know ourselves better than anybody else. And with the wedding, I had to be very careful not to get sucked into what other people wanted for my wedding. And with my business, the same thing. And that's what I'm learning early on with my Fab Finance. Like, yeah, that works for you. And you made $25,000 or $40,000 on that launch, but that's not my business model. And being very comfortable in myself and saying, I'm going to do my own thing and see how that works out. Not to say don't take advice from others, but just know what you want and what your vision is so that other people can't sway you outside of it and that you're compromising your vision and your integrity.
and be willing to ask for what you want, right? That is like at the core of what being bossed up is all about, which is why I feel so aligned with everything you're saying right now, because honestly, in today's world, women are so silenced or given such shade for actually asking for what they want, right? In a culture that is so busy telling us what we should want. So snaps to you, Tonya, and congratulations on all those fronts. I'm so excited for you. We've got a lot of comments coming in saying they love the student debt advice too. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wrap this up because we do have to wrap. But for everyone out there watching, you've got to come hang out with me and Tonya in person. Next week, we have our free, always fabulous, always free Bossed Up Power Hour next Thursday. We always have them on the last Thursday of the month in New York City at the Hill. Tonya and I will be hosting a joint event together. So we've got hot appetizers and a cold cash bar waiting for you, where Tonya and I will both be talking more one-on-one. It's a pretty intimate event, so come hang out with us, and we can chat one-on-one about your career conundrums and your money issues, and let's get you bossed up and get your money right. I would love to see you all there, and of course, I'd love to see you all at Bossed Up Boot Camp coming to New York next month, and then DC and Boston later. Tonya, where else can folks find out more about what you're up to? Go ahead and give us all those deets now.
Yeah, I just also wanted to piggyback on, I am so excited to connect with people in New York City. This is kind of like my first happy hour type of situation that I'm not organizing from behind the scenes, and I get to politic with people. So I'm really excited about that. And I just want to add that I've had a lot of careers. Like I've had a lot. I sold cars. I was a traveling makeup artist. I've done a lot of stuff outside of doing community organizing work. And so I love to talk to people about any career or money related questions that they have. I'm a Gemini, so been all over the place. If anyone has any questions about where to find me at, you can find me at Fab Finance on all social media platforms. I'm on Snapchat personally as Tonya.Rapley, and I snap a lot about the life of being an entrepreneur, a money conscious entrepreneur, and just, it's a wonderful lifestyle, but it's not all roses. Last week I was run ragged. And so I Snapchat about that at Tonya.Rapley. And I have so many freebies at Fab Finance. So if anyone has any questions that they didn't get to ask, or you're just curious about what I touch on, you can visit myfabfinance.com. And I encourage you to start at the Start Here page. So myfabfinance.com/start here. And that will give you a quick view of everything we have available on the website. And we're wrapping up the Banish the Balance Challenge, which was an 8-week debt repayment challenge course. We paid out in 60 days, participants have paid off nearly $200,000 worth of debt. So we'll be opening that back up to the public. It was like, when I calculated the numbers, I was like, bang, oh my God.
Yeah. That's so awesome.
They paid off a house. Like it's amazing. And so we'll be opening that back up. People can learn more about it at banishthebalance.com. That's banishthebalance.com.
I love it. Congratulations. I can't wait to hang with you in New York City next week.
I got my dress.
I know, right? And for our DC bosses, we do have Power Hour happening tomorrow, as always, the second to last Thursday here in Washington, D.C. at Impact Hub as well. Thanks so much for everybody for tuning in. Head on over to bossedup.com and myfabfinance.com to learn more, and we will be in touch with y'all real soon. Thanks so much, Tonya.
Thank you. Bye, guys.